I thought I'd float as things people do. To you, I'm consumed. I'm such a fool thinking I won't get caught in your downhill flow. Swept away. What good is a beautiful day? I'm alone in you. You're in the car of my only flaw. You keep needing.
Good evening, and welcome to Advancing the Cause. Today is Wednesday, the 2nd of February, 2022. It's twos all across the board. The 2nd of 2022. My name is Randolph Critchlow, and we're flipping the script this evening, folks. I know you're accustomed to seeing MP Coretta McDonald hosting the show, but this evening she's on the other side of the table. She's going to be interviewed. She's going to be on. MP Coretta McDonald and MP Natasha Singh will be joining us this evening as we talk about the budget 2022 and their contributions, in particular, their contributions to the budget presentations. If you're joining us, ensure that you are sharing the live stream. Share, folks, as we about to discuss some credible and valid information, as I usually see on my program. We are going to be doing that this evening with two lovely MPs from the opposition side. It is Advancing the Cause, folks. You can let us know where you're joining us from. You can let us know where you're joining us from in the comment section, and we'll give you a little shout out before we start the discussion on budget 2022. And we want to talk about a number of things. The MPs are going to be talking, so I'm going to ask them about their presentation. So as you come in, share the live stream, folks. We are ready to go. It is a beautiful evening here in Georgetown, Guyana. It's a bit hot where I am. Let us know where you're joining us from, folks. Maryland is in the house. Good evening to all of you good people joining from all over the world. South Rumfeld is in the house. Buxton, thank you very much for being a part of the program. We're going to be discussing some interesting information, folks. We want to get right into it. Sisters Village, West Side, Brooklyn is in the house. Thank you very much. Folks, as you come in, do remember to share the live stream. But as I said this evening, folks, we are going to be flipping the script. This is Advancing the Cause. It is not The Rush. It is Advancing the Cause. Yes, do not adjust your television sets. We are going to be coming in now. I want to welcome the usual host of the show, Honorable Coretta McDonald, and our guest this evening, another guest this evening, the Honorable Natasha Singh Lewis, to the program. Ladies, good evening. Good evening to you both.
Good evening to you, Randy. And it's a different feeling when you're on the other side of the bridge.
Yes.
Good evening, Randy. It's always good to be here with lovely people. Interesting conversation tonight.
Yes, thank you very much for allowing me to host the program, Coretta, and thank you very much for being here, Natasha. I know we're going to talk about a few interesting things coming up. Atlanta, Georgia is saying hi. Borbice is saying hi. Watching from Paradise Village, West Coast. Borbice, loud and clear from Toronto. All the good folks, as you come in, the price of admission is very, very, very cheap. Press the like button, press the share button, let your friends and family know. Now, budget 2020, ladies, as we continue. Yesterday was day 3. Today was day 3, of the budget presentations and the debates, actually, hearing the government defend budget 2022, and of course the opposition putting forward their argument as to what could have been done better in the budget, what was, where it came short. And there are some measures, of course, that I know there are some measures that you would agree with in the budget. But generally, we want to break down your specific areas of focus this evening. I know that MP Natasha Singh Lewis, human service and social protection is your area. And if MP Coretta McDonald will remind us what was your area of focus?
Labor.
Labor. Labor. So you were shadowing Coco Joe.
Yes.
All right. I don't know who wants to start. Who wants to open the button? Because let me throw out this question. I want your general take on budget 2022, and I can, since it's your show, Miss McDonald, let's start with you. Give us your general take. I know the people on the street, because I was asking somebody the other day, what does the budget have for you in it? The person on the street couldn't tell me anything. If I ask a business person, they might know, but don't let me jump the gun. What is your take on budget 2022?
Well, Randy, again, good night to you and good night to all of our viewers who take time off to watch us on Advancing the Cause. Again, budget 2022 didn't come as any surprise to us. What we are disappointed, we are quite disappointed. I am disappointed that budget 22 came with a splash of oil, where we did not have to borrow a huge sum of money, but we would have been able to use our oil funds. And yet, budget 2022 did not cater for the small man. It has not catered for the ordinary working class people. As a matter of fact, budget 2022 is now dubbed as the largest budget ever to have graced the shores of this land. But yet, with all of that, and it's 552 point something billion dollars. Yet, with all of that, there is no scope for the single mother, no scope for our indigenous brothers and sisters, no scope for the barbers, the hairdressers, the laborers, the airline workers, tour operators, no scope for them. Well, don't let me talk about the public servants, which includes teachers, members of the armed forces. Don't let me talk about them because it has nothing there for them. And so I would want to dub budget 2022 as a budget that is deceitful, deceptive, and disrespectful to the Guyanese people.
Right. Interesting. 3Ds there. 3Ds. You know, when in the academic world, D is never good. D is never good. Uh, MP Natasha Singh Lewis, do you agree with that? And what else would you add if you do agree with it?
Good evening, Randy, and good evening, Miss McDonald, and to all our viewers, good evening to you. I'm happy to be on Advancing the Cause once again. I would say, Randy, that Miss McDonald, being a teacher by profession, she is very gracious with her D's. This morning, our opening batsman, Honorable Coretta Fernandez, would have given the budget a failing grade, F, and she looked at the measurements for a budget. And so she didn't go into all the specifics. But this evening, I want to join Coretta and Coretta to say that this budget is dubbed steadfast against all challenges, resolute in building our one Guyana. Randy, I want to say that this budget is a mockery to Guyanese because it has nothing that speaks to the struggling poor people in this country. And we know the percentage in our population of poor people, it's higher than the middle class people. And so if this budget looks specifically to the big boys and the middle class, then the poor people are going to become poorer. And we have a serious problem moving forward because living situation in Guyana is untenable for poor people.
Quite interesting, and again, I'm following the comments in as people listen to the program, and somebody says almost $500 billion and nothing for the ordinary man. And I take it that this is the general theme and the general feeling of those persons who are going through the budget and trying to find where is this government spending their money, where, and MP Manzo Waters says, show me how you spend your money and tell you what you value,
Yes.
right? So
Mhm.
can we point, and that for me, that is the thing, can we point to a specific um item or program or something in this budget that says, look, the public servants are going to benefit by X amount? And I come back here to Coretta. The teachers are going to benefit by X, the nurses are going to benefit by X amount because of these specific measures in the budget. How are these persons to take that?
Randy, let me first start off from the point or the position of the pandemic. We have a pandemic here. Our teachers have suffered. Teachers have died. Students have died. Some of them have lost their parents. Some of them have lost other loved ones. And there is absolutely nothing in that budget, in the allocation for education, that deals specifically with COVID and how we are going to mitigate against what is happening in our schools, what is happening to our school children, what is happening with our teachers. No program there that talks about counseling, no program that talks about how we are going to enhance our schools and make them safe. You see, the thing here is not just reopening of schools, but schools that are safe for our teachers and our students and pupils to operate in. Absolutely nothing. And like I said earlier, I am shadowing labor.
Mhm.
And we've listened to the Minister of Finance. Well, the minister with responsibility for finance, let me correct myself, because we know who the real Minister of Finance is. And he went through 5+ hours. Guyanese sat there anxiously awaiting to hear something, as I dubbed it, earth shattering coming from this budget for them. Nothing. Nothing. They're still waiting. And so I'm saying in this budget, when we talk about labor, there is absolutely, again, nothing there that caters for the working force to mitigate against the COVID issues. Much more to talk about increases in salaries and so on. If you can't deal with COVID, this pandemic that is creating havoc, that has got the Minister of Health and all of his other colleagues confused and sailing somewhere else because they don't know what to do, and you can't put something in the budget to deal with that, then something is absolutely wrong with us. Something is absolutely wrong with the PPP. They are still living in a in dream.
And let me pick up on something that you said, because I know that there was some allocation for some 11,000 devices for teachers and students, and I smile when I hear that, because um, we know how many schools are in Guyana, we know how many students are in Guyana, and finding 11,000 devices is not even a drop in the pod. And so those are the sort of half measures you might see. And I know you mentioned labor, and I'm gonna come to Natasha now, but I want her to comment on the Minister of Labor. We come back to Coretta because I want to tackle some things that you said in your presentation. But the Minister of Labor seems as if he was left out in the cold, nothing substantial to find in the budget to talk about. So he resorted to talking about yard fowl for half of the and headless chicken for half of the time. So I guess he had none to talk to. So we can't blame him. But um, MP Singh Lewis, I know you are responsible for human service social protection. How do you feel that was treated in the budget this year?
So, Randy, let me give you a general overview of what I feel is missing. We have entered, I think it's 2 years, March will be 2 years since COVID is here with us. And COVID has changed our operations significantly at work and at home. I would have been happy to see measures in place that considered how things have shifted, because we're not operating as per normal at this time. So I would have liked to know, we have at least, at the last count, it was 1,300 and something public servants who were knocked off, laid off, sent home. That's that amount of jobs that is no longer available for people. Multiply that by 4 at an average per household, and you will know how many people are suffering right now because the sole breadwinner is not there anymore, unemployed. Secondly, most of those breadwinners, we have done a very preliminary look at the data, and we've seen single parents showing up a lot. What is it that the Ministry of Human Service and Social Security has put in place to ensure that those women will be retooled or trained for the first time so that they can become independent and they can take care of their families? The ones that were laid off, what are the opportunities that they are presenting to them so that they can regain employment somewhere, privately or otherwise, so that they can carry on with their lives? Women in this country is at a disadvantage at the highest level at this point in time. This budget does not cater for them. I have listened to Sonia Parag talk about the Gold Scholarship. And I've been going around, Randy, we don't sit at our desk and pretend that we know everything from there. We have been moving from community to community. And I can tell you, those Gold Scholarship, 95% of them are going to their PPP supporters. What happened to the other people? And she was so boastful and bringing these people with different ethnicity. We don't have a problem with that. But tell us what happened to the other people, because we know they only look after one set of people. And that's only if I want to speak about women as a stakeholder in human services. There are other areas. Let's talk about domestic violence. That's a big situation in Guyana. We are moving from racism to domestic violence to so many other challenges in this country. And you cannot see one single program that will move people from one place in their lives to another one. Nothing significant. So what they're coming with, what happened last year, they're continuing this year. So if nothing happened last year, we're doing nothing this year too. Now listen to me. We have seen that our teenage girls, there's a high level of report now about rape on our teenage girls. You would expect that there is going to be something significant in this budget, significant enough to talk about in the minister's budget speech. Instead, she spent time to talk about my behavior in my presentation. When she was on the other side, I can't use the word to describe her, how she used to behave. But she is in a nice position now. She's in government. So she gets to come to the National Assembly and pretend to be Mother Teresa. But we wouldn't let her. Because, Randy, we want to address the issue of the Board of Guardians across this country. What has happened? We've seen public assistance, a little pittance of $2,000. We've seen old age pittance, a little thing of $3,000 there. But we got to talk about the structural issues and the policies that the minister is putting in place that are discriminatory in nature. Let me use the Board of Guardians, for instance. The Board of Guardians has the responsibility for reviewing the persons who are applying for public assistance. You know what they're doing? They are taking off persons by large numbers and telling them that they believe that these people are fit to go and work. Where are they finding this work from? So they disenfranchise them by taking them off the list. You know who are the members of the Board of Guardians? The PPP members in each region. Not one member of APNU AFC sit on a Board of Guardian. I can close my eyes and tell you that. I can verify it for you region by region. You know which region is suffering most? Region 4, Region 5, and Region 10. I know because we've started to collect the data. At first, they started to give them in 2015. They told them that they're only entitled to this for 6 months. And the minister has put a system in place whereby every 6 months they review the list. So, Randy, if you were born an orphan and your grandmother's looking after you, you're entitled to public assistance. And what they do, they decide to walk around house by house and decide, oh, you're a APNU supporter? You can go and work. You're not entitled to public assistance. And Randy, I have no apologies for saying these things, because they're truth. I have some real cases on my desk coming from Linden. But I've decided I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to write the minister, put it in writing, and then I'm going to share it with the world. There's a very heartbreaking instance. Randy, that $3,000 in pension. Oh God, $3,000. And look how much billions they took from the Natural Resource Fund, and $3,000 you're given to a pensioner. And I had to tell them it comes down to $100 a day. And $100 a day can't buy a sweet drink, a small bottle sweet drink.
Yeah.
Because a small bottle sweet drink is $180. A bag of tennis roll is $280, $300. Let me tell you what that does for us as a society. Because the general thing is that we wanted the impact of this budget to develop our moral fabric of our society. And an essential to that is taking care of the elders. If you have no respect for the people who build this nation, then you don't have any respect for yourself. And further to that, I want to say to you, you've asked the question, what is it in this budget? Because there must be something good. Honorable Kemrat Ramchatan zoomed in on corruption. And you know where the corruption is in government? In projects, in infrastructure. And Randy, if you go through that thing, all of their projects reeks of corruption. And that's where the big lump sums are. And I don't have to tell you that couple of laptops that she's going to throw out in education there will become a PR stunt. And then they're going to blindfold people. But how much can we just ignore this? We can't. This budget is the worst of the 3 budgets, Randy. The worst of it.
Yeah, especially with all of the monies coming in. One report says that the wastage when it comes to public infrastructure will be close to $80-something billion through corrupt means. But let me just zoom in here on one particular thing. And I know there are persons looking at the program tonight who might be residing in region number 6. I visited region number 6 a few times in the last few months, and I am very surprised and appalled at the amount of children on the streets begging. And I know this is something that people in the Berbice area can attest to. And I'm wondering what is being done by this administration to tackle even a specific issue like that. I don't know if you have gotten reports of the same, Natasha.
Randy, if you want to see that, I know the instance in Region 6 that you're talking about, but right here in Georgetown, when you stop at the stoplights, you will see them come to you, because you want to assume that the minister don't know what's going on out of the region. But right in Georgetown here, where they all come to work, you can see that. But if you go to Region 1, Randy, I remember you were there in Mabaruma. If you go to Region 1, you will see how many children, babies, mothers, they have no place to stay.
Yeah,
they have
Region
no
1
food
is.
to eat. Yes. And the minister seemed to be clueless of what's happening. Now you would expect a budget with this magnitude, money handed to them, that they would be creative in establishing programs. But Randy, you have to have a heart of care to do that. You have to care for people to
They
want to
care.
for them.
They care about the private sector and the big business. It was Raman McCray that said they have an unhealthy, the private sector has an unhealthy sway on the government. So they care about them. That's why the money was handed to them through oil, and they handed it over through these projects to the big business friends. Let me
You're
come to
absolutely correct.
MP Coretta McDonald here. Joseph Hamilton is supposed to be the Minister of Labor. Coco Joe, as he's more affectionately known. He is supposed to be the Minister of Labor. And it seems as though his sole responsibility in the government is to be a bulldog and come out and threaten workers when they say they want to strike. So he can come out and make a statement about your money being cut and all sort of madness, and then he goes back into a shell on Brick Dam. I don't know. What were some of the disappointing things you observe in terms of this budget as it relates to labor, where you covered? Hold on for me, sorry. With your microphone, I got it.
Oh, you have
Go
me
ahead.
there now? Good. Like I said earlier, and let me backpedal a little. The Minister of Labor is a spineless human being. Let me put that up there first and foremost. He cannot stand up to his PPP colleagues to tell them when they are wrong. As a matter of fact, he's just a follower. And so what he has chosen to do is to attack especially the female opposition members. That's what he has decided, that for this budget, he is going to be doing that. More than that, more than Pulauri Joe, as we would fondly call him, this budget, for every strong speaker within the coalition, this installed regime, they have blocked you from being broadcast. They've blocked your presentation from being broadcast, or they have been interrupting your presentation every now and again. But like I said yesterday, as a matter of fact, while we were at lunch, we were talking about it, and we hinted that we spoke so loudly that the minister within the ministry of the prime minister, I think the prime minister has a ministry, not sure, but Kwame McCoy, he said to us in no uncertain terms that on the first day the opposition had enough. They had enough time on air. We had enough. We had sufficient. So let's not fuss and fight about anything now. We don't have to have air time there. We don't have to have our presentations. And so this is the culture. This is the kind of beast we are having in the PPP. They have not changed. And so last night, jokingly, I placed on my Facebook page, if the PPP think that blocking our presentations from being aired on NCN will stop us, it will not, because we are going to use other forums to have our presentations being made to the public, so that they can hear and they can see they can read and they can hear what we are saying. But coming back to labor, earlier I spoke about the pandemic, and I'm happy that you did mention that the Minister of Labor, rather than being the Minister of Labor, he has decided that this is going to be my modus operandi. We have seen on more than 2 or 3 occasions the workers from Gaisuko coming out to strike. The workers from Gaisuko, through their union, issuing statements that their workers are going to withdraw their services. Not on one of those occasions have we seen the Minister of Labor, Pulauri Joe, coming out there to threaten those workers. We've never heard him coming out there to make any statement. But you know what? His eyes pass teachers and other public servants simply because they have this mindset that the majority of the teachers are coalition supporters and the majority of the public servants are coalition supporters. And so we are going to punish them. Hence the reason for Joe coming out to make the statements he made then. I spoke in my presentation about co-ops. If we're talking about building a One Guyana, this is one of the most meaningful way that we can build One Guyana, because we are going to, when we reinstitute co-ops in our villages, that in itself is a form of village or community stability. They don't have that in mind. Their idea is not to empower citizens of this country, but rather to keep you always begging for the little crumbs. That's what the PPP is all about. And so when you talk about suffering and when you talk about people, as I made reference to several reports, and I even asked whether they would read these reports. In one of the reports, it said how many persons are having one meal a day because they're out of jobs, which is a fact. How many persons have started, the amount of persons in terms of percentage, 50%, who have started using their savings to ensure that, you know, they go through a comfortable week or a comfortable month. It also went on to talk about youth employment and all of these, by how much percentage it would have gone up. And these things are not, they don't ring a bell in the ears of the installed PPP. And so rather than Joseph Hamilton coming out there to say to this nation that I would have contributed, like they said today when we highlighted the fact that we are going to put all the blame at the foot of the minister with responsibility. They all jumped out to say, oh, the minister didn't, what's his name? Singh didn't put that budget together. He was just reading. But at the end of the day, he's the person with responsibility. And so if you are going to be reading the budget, then you must ensure that, one, you know everything that is in that budget. And secondly, you know where the allocations are and who would have allocated this and where it's going and all of that. But like you said earlier, all the PPP are interested in is handing the big fat slabs of monies to their friends and their families. We've seen that happening in 2020. We've seen that happening in 2021. And so in 2022, where they have access to even more monies, this is exactly what they're going to do. And like my colleague Natasha just said, she highlighted the areas where corruption is rampant, and those are the areas that the PPP are placing emphasis on. As a matter of fact, just today, Indara, whatever is his name, said, he's the junior minister of public works, he said, we have to build proper infrastructure. We have to build proper roads. We have to do this. We have to do that. And so I said then, yes, and while you're building all these roads, because Guyana is an oil producing nation and you're expecting all these people from overseas to come and invest, all these investors to come, while you're building all the roads, people will starve and die, or they will continue to starve and they're going to die, because that's where your emphasis is. And that's where the stealing can occur. And that's what they're all about. Corruption, 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 and more corruption. But back to labor, as we said just now. I identified in my presentation that I would have expected labor to place quite a lot of emphasis on the occupational safety, the health and occupational health and safety aspect, that particular department within the ministry, because we've seen during 2020, 2021, and even in 2022 already, how many workers have died or were injured at their workplaces. And you know what we have gotten from the Ministry of Labor? oh, an investigation has been launched. We have launched an investigation. That's all you get. But you don't hear what is coming out of this investigation. When is the investigation expected to be concluded so that innocent, poor, ordinary workers can be given some sort of satisfaction? You don't get anything about that. And so I was expecting to see quite a lot in that department. I was also expecting to hear the minister say to us that in 2022, the Ministry of Labor would be playing a more active role when it comes to engagement with unions, because according to them, democracy has been restored. But I'm not sure what kind of democracy they're talking about and where it has been restored, because they were the ones who were championing when the coalition was in government. They were talking about what has happened to collective bargaining. And then when they heard that collective bargaining was on one of the priority areas for the coalition, they said, oh, we're happy that it has returned. But 2020 has passed. 2022 would have passed, 2020 would have passed, 2021 would have passed, and we have not seen any attempt by the fraudulent PPP government to talk about collective bargain, to talk about engaging the unions so that we can put together proper packages for our workers. They are just about themselves. And in some of my recommendations, I stated there that we would have expected to see coming from this budget free electricity for poor families, the subsidizing of mortgages, free housing, free vouchers, earned income tax credits. I also posited that, you know, we should have seen a supplemental nutrition assistance program with debit cards so that poor and ordinary Guyanese citizens can go to designated supermarkets to make their purchases. I spoke about a proper security program in place so that low income families could benefit from that. And I listed a whole series there, including single parent mothers and young mothers who have children and what kind of child care could have been offered. But we have seen none of that coming in from that budget. And the Minister of Labor, like everything else, he doesn't see further than his nose. And so that's not important to him. You know, at this time, they're riding the fat cats and they're living off of the blood of the poor people of this country. So it doesn't mean anything to them, because like I said to them, they dress in their fancy Armani suits and they wear their Gucci shades, and some of them, like the honorable, let me call him that, the Honorable Charles Ramson, when he was 30 years, it was the first time he traveled in a minibus. So he doesn't understand hardship. He doesn't understand what it means to be hungry. He doesn't understand what it means to go to bed with nothing to eat or wake up in the morning and you don't know where to find a meal. And so this whole budget is a big flam. Again, 2020 you failed, 2021 you failed again, and in 2022 you have already set the stage for failure. And so this budget doesn't serve the ordinary man anyway.
Right. Quite comprehensive there, and I'm happy that you listed some of the recommendations, because you know we on these programs and we highlight the inadequacies and the failings of the PPP government, but it's very, very important that people understand that we are positing and putting forward sensible solutions to the problems that we are seeing. And as I say that, I come to MP Natasha Singh. I know we spoke about some of the issues on your area of focus, but for the person looking on right now, what would you hope to see happen for that ministry that you're shadowing?
She's muted, Randy.
Microphone.
Sorry. So Randy,
Yes.
let me say a couple of things first, right? Nationally, we know there are the regular programs that we have to take care of the children and the homes. We have the Chavez home, we have the Palm Geriatric Center and so on. There are regular things you have to do, maintenance and so on. But as a result of the pandemic, we have seen a different shift in life. And so I would have liked to see a focus on the community itself. So the minister could have said to us, we are piloting in at least 4 regions some local programs to, and then you sample communities in a very equitable manner. You sample communities to do training for our women and girls, right? Now, what is happening is that they are focusing a lot on the one training institute we have at Cove and John. So only people in Region 4 would be able to benefit from that. And predominantly people from the East Coast, right? And that should send a red flag all over that right there. Listen to me, Randy. If we care, if the minister cared, she would have done something about the over 100 employees at the Palms Geriatric Home. You know what I'm talking about, Randy? The installed president announced a 2 weeks bonus for health workers. And Randy, you know that we had instances of COVID-19, positive COVID-19 cases at the Palms in 2020 and 2021. And Randy, those workers, they stayed, they put their lives at risk, and they work with the patients at the Palms. I don't think anybody died at the Palms. And you know what happened? They were not given the 2 weeks bonus. You would think that the minister is caring, that she would have catered for them in this budget. You know what? I sent them, when they complained to me, I sent them, I said, go to the minister. I want you to go and tell her what your situation is. You know what she said to the staff? That they're not employed by the Ministry of Health, so they're not entitled to that bonus. But they are employed at Human Services to carry out the functions of healthcare workers at the geriatric home. Is that a minister that really cares about the people? Now, where are they going to go for that bonus? And then the president is saying one thing, the bonus is for all healthcare workers. And the minister is saying, hold on, you're not employed at Ministry of Health, so you can't get anything. And those are the subtle things that are happening to our employees. If we can't take care of them based on what the president is saying, then tell me about your projection for the next year that is coming. And when we talk about these things, they accuse us of making everything an issue of racism. But Randy, their policies are so constructed. It's racist in nature. And I will call them out. But this, let me say to you, we have many instances where the night shelter is inadequate to deal with our indigent people. You know that that's a rising problem in Georgetown itself. While we're talking about the garbage city, we have a lot of people sleeping on the pavement and all sorts of things. That's a growing problem in Georgetown. The night shelter in Georgetown is inadequate to deal with that. We haven't heard anything about that as yet. There is nothing in the budget that tells me that there is another structure coming up. They like these big projects, right? That's where they get the money from. But I haven't seen that. We have the Hugo Chavez Center, in which, you know what they do there, Randy? I'm not sure if Jordan covered it in his presentation, but they cut the meals of the people, the indigent people that they're taking care of. We know at one time, at the geriatric home, they cut the sugar and the milk. They cut it in half. And it is alleged that the minister said to the staff at the stores there that there's eat too much.
Wow.
Is that how we care for our people? So she just come into the ministry in 2021 and cut the store's budget in half.
Yeah. Oh, folks, if you're now joining us, we're discussing Fallout Budget 2022 with MP Coretta McDonald, of course, Shadow Minister of Labor, and MP Honorable Natasha Singh Lewis, the Shadow Minister of Human Services and Social Protection. I'm still calling it Social Protection, Social Services. But we're discussing the budget. And if you're now joining us, share the live stream, share the live stream. If following your comments here, ladies, allow me to digress a little bit because I want to just pick up on something that I saw in the comment section. You know, I've been an educator now for 20 years. And, you know, I'm very good at spotting people that the education system would have failed. And I spotted a contributor by the name of Trini King, who said the president was cleaning the city. Why? What did you guys do? And then he or she, whatever, or is it? I don't know what is it. Trini King said that why did you not come out and help clean? Let me educate Trini King because again, the education thing is in me. In 2015, Trini King, because you remember again, the education system may have failed you a bit, so your retainers may be not there. But in
He was part
2015,
of the No Child Left Behind.
no child, Trini King was left behind apparently. But in 2015, when the APNU AFC got into power, they had to clean up 23 years of mess
Yep.
from the city. I don't know where Trini King was when all that big cleanup was happening. And again, the other day we had to see a cleanup. After a year and a half of the PPP, you had a cost to clean up. And we need to ask ourselves, why? Why every time the PPP in power, the place is so nasty that you got to get some cleanup effort? Because when they left power in 2015, we had 23 years of mess. A year and a half, the place dirty again. But why? It is simple. They have decided that they will not support the city council in Georgetown because Georgetown don't support them. And for the last year and a half, they have not given the city council any money. So I'm educating Trini King right now. So the president, like Tasha would have said, Tasha said, and this is another contributor, cleaning what city? You mean posing for a picture and holding the rake upside down? That's what the president was saying.
I'm happy that she noted that.
Exactly. So,
but Randy, if I could just come in.
Go ahead.
You need to remind Trini King or whatever is his name or her name or its name that in 2015, when the coalition took over, it was His Excellency David Arthur Granger who went out there and started the cleaning. So let him don't feel that Efren Ali was doing something that nobody else never did. David Arthur Granger was out there cleaning early in the morning. And if you remember, folks were saying, but is how this man gonna go out there? Like, here, remember that he's the president, how we gonna go out there just like that without bodyguards or anything? And very quickly you had to rush down there to get bodyguards and so on to be around him. He went out there, you know why? Because he's an ordinary man. He ain't got to get all them bodyguards that you see Efren Ali got walking up and down the place with not even a piece of stick in the hand to pick up something. So Trini King must get his facts right. And Randy, since I'm on this, sorry that I'm cutting you.
Go ahead.
You know, the PPP and their trenches, they don't like when you talk about facts, you know. They get upset. I can say to our viewers, for the last 3 days, we have been able to tick every single member within the PPP off. And if you hear their behavior in Parliament, because when we speak, we don't only go out there to oppose, we tell the truth and we make recommendations, and they get upset with that. As a matter of fact, let me say to us, just today in my presentation, as a matter of fact, in their presentations last year, and some of them repeated it again this year, all they could talk about is what the APNU AFC did. And oh, we rigged the elections and shameless and take your licks like a mad man. But today, when I was reminding them of what the chief elections officer said in his report, everybody got all upset. And if you hear the heckling and so on, if you hear the abusing that I start putting on me, they can talk about it, but we must not talk about it. And so I went at length to list the 47 ballot boxes, voter impersonation, people who were out of the country and all these things. And they were highly annoyed. Only the PPP must carry a story. Nobody else mustn't carry that story. And I want to close off by saying, your nice girlfriend, Priya, decided that she can give the children this $25,000 grant. I had to tell her today that $25,000 that she given, and they're making a big thing about it, It's just a little stretch they're giving to the parents, because that ain't going anywhere far. 1 week it finish, and you parents are back to square one. And so I had to remind them that when you want to talk about transformation, remember the 5 B's: buses, bicycles, boat, breakfast, books. That is what you call transformation, not $25,000 in people's hand, where in many cases both the mother and father not working. What you expect to happen? Or maybe you got to stretch the 25,000, $500 today, $500 tomorrow, $500 the next day. And if you have maybe 4 or 5 children, and that's how they're calculating it, if a family got 4 or 5 children, where there's 100,000 you collect, is 125,000 you collect, so it's plenty money. So the PPP they only believe in giving handouts to people so that they can control you, but they don't believe in giving people a livable wage, one, and two, creating jobs so that people can go out there and earn for themselves. I had to further ask, what happened to the 50,000 jobs that were punished? But I quickly had to remind myself that was photoshopped. But that's the PPP. That's the nature of the people we deal with.
Yep.
And they're bold and barefaced, they're bold and barefaced.
And they're stinking dirty.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming close to the end of the program. And I say, ladies and gentlemen, talking to the viewers and ladies on the program, we want to quickly, I know that today we saw the news. It was confirmed in the press that MP Dr. Nicolette Henry will be leaving Parliament, your colleague. I want to say quickly before we end, I worked with Dr. Henry for 2 years, from 2015 to 2017, and I wish her nothing but the best. She is a professional. I know that the education ministry would have moved forward leaps and bounds under her, a number of improvements. Again, sadly, we didn't do a very good job at promoting and showing the achievements that we had from 2015 to 2020. But a lot of good things happened at the Ministry of Education, and I want to thank her publicly for her service to the party, and to the country and the people of Guyana. I don't know if you want to, because we have about 2 minutes before we leave for Sherrod Duncan, but I'll give you the opportunity to close off and offer a word on that too. Natasha.
Randy, let me take this first and take you to program time. Coretta might want to do her congratulations in person.
Yes.
Randy, let me say to you that Dr. Henry stood out as a professional, and she did an excellent job while she was in Parliament. And I know she will continue to be a professional out of Parliament. I wish her all the best. And it is never an easy thing to just have to make such a hard decision. I know that could not have been an easy decision for her, but I wish her all the best. Randy, I want to speak to our viewers for 1 minute.
Yes.
Let me say to all of you out there, pay attention to what is happening. We have 31 members of Parliament who are fighting your battle at a national level. And you would see all of us on these programs. You will watch us in Parliament. You will see us in the communities. But let me say to you that we are heading down a dark road. And it will not get better unless you put the people who have your interests at heart into government. It is as simple as that. Because these fraudulent people, they do not have your interests at heart. And I want to say to us, if we were negligent, if we didn't take care of our brothers and sisters' interests, if we didn't take care of our own interests, we got to get up and get now, because there is only so much we can do. But the people, they have got to get up and understand that we are all together in this problem. And it's not going to get better unless you come out. We can do so much, but we need people to come out. We need people to understand that poor people are going to punish a lot more this year, and we don't know what will happen next year. So I plead with you to pay attention to what is happening in your community. Make wise decisions.
Thank you very much, MP Natasha Singh Lewis. MP Coretta McDonald, 30 seconds to you.
All right. I just want to remind our viewers that this budget is a budget that has been presented for the haves and not the have-nots. So everything there is for those who have, and they'll get more. But for those who don't have, you'll get nothing. Quickly, let me join with my colleague to say thank you to Dr. Henry for her outstanding services to this country, to the Parliament of Guyana, and to the party. Of course, she remains in the party. And I want to say that Dr. Nicolette Henry, she has stood out in terms of the decision that she would have made here today, because she has got the interest of our people at heart. And so she made that bold decision. We want to thank her, and I want to wish her every success in our future endeavors. Before I go, I just want to extend happy birthday greetings to my second mom, Mrs. Merlin Collins. I know I was busy today, but I want to wish you God's richest blessings. Continue to stay strong, continue to be in good health, and we'll make up for this after this whole issue of budget debates are finished. To our viewers, thank you for always being here with us. We love you, but you know what? Things tight. We gotta go out there and fight, not physically, but we have to stand up and allow our voices to be heard. Remind the PPP of what they are doing. Tell them or remind them of what was done during the 2015-2020 period. And in that short period, we hadn't oil money, but we did so much. And like you said, Randy, we are not the kind of people who love to jump on Facebook to put everything out there. When we do things, we do it out of the goodness of our heart, because that's our obligation to the people of this country. So we don't have to make a big show about it and post up on Facebook and post up on Facebook. But watch out. You're going to see how many of those tablets, when they're distributed, how many will be posted on Facebook. You're going to see how many more of the 2 packets of chow mein and 1 pack of flour and bottle of oil, how many of those hampers you'll see on Facebook. That's what our people are worth under this fraudulent PPP. But we will make things right. The APNU AFC coalition, we stand ready to rescue our people, and we will do that. All we're asking you to do is to have your ID cards ready and stand by, because that day is fast approaching. Good night. Take care. Remember, COVID kills, so stay safe.
Right. On that note, on that note, we want to thank MP Coretta McDonald for allowing me to host her show, and thank Natasha Singh and MP Natasha Singh Lewis for being here. Contributions from both of you were very meaningful, and we say good night to all of our viewers. Join us again to next Wednesday, for another program of Advancing the Cause. Do enjoy the rest of the evening, folks.
I thought I'd flow.